Good morning. So I was eating a donut, so I didn't have my mic on. Hold on. And better. Great, fantastic. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Atlanta, where we have delicious donuts and bagels. No, it's not just what we do here. It's a nice addition, though. We are deep into our worship series titled Some Walls, and we have an exciting service for you today. Our first hymn is There's a River Flowing in My Soul. Please rise, in body or in spirit. It's number 1007 in the teal hymnal if you want the music. It's John Frangione bringing the gospel. There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my soul, and it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river There's a river flowing, there's a river flowing in my soul. So glad you are here. It is the best place to be on a Sunday morning in Atlanta, Georgia.
Yeah, I think so. Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Atlanta, a beloved community that changes lives. I'm Barbara Begner, and I am so glad that you are here this morning. Wherever you are from the service, to allow us to get to know you a little better. You can sign up to receive information about services and programs being presented over the next several weeks. This week, our adult religious education program starts at 12:15 rather than our usual 12:30. Join UUCA Board President-elect Jennifer Thilo and Board Member Jen Bain here in the sanctuary for the second in a two-part series on covenant. The topic this week is our own UUCA covenant. Come to hear from some congregants directly involved in creating it. We will discuss how our covenant resonates with us individually and how it functions within our congregation. Today, we will not hold the Inquirer's class, but next Sunday, it will return at its regularly scheduled time. And on Thursday morning, from 10 to 11 a.m., you are invited to participate in Joy Niskern's Gentle Yoga class. And on Thursday evening at 7 p.m., come to the sanctuary for a 2-hour introduction to Tai Chi, offered by Furman Riley. For more information on these, as well as upcoming adult RE classes, please see the adult RE section in our UUCA website. And UUCA's Wednesday mornings are about to get more wonderful. Starting on February 5th, lay minister Kay Golan will continue the spirituality and aging class from 10:30 to 12:30 right here in the sanctuary. The class will be a deep dive into how wisdom gained from life experience provide fertile ground for the spiritual inquiry that our faith is known for. Those of you who have taken previous incarnations of this class will find it familiar in approach, but will be treated to new material, exercises, and discussions. Join Kay Golan for what is going to be an incredible spiritual journey. More information, including a suggested reading list, is available on the calendar page of the UUCA website. I hope you'll plan to take advantage of all that our religious education program is offering. And now, please make sure to take this moment to put your cell phones in their most reverent position. Thank you. Once again, we're so glad you're here on this beautiful morning. Let us say the chalice lighting words together. May the light of this flame illuminate our tradition of seeking, invite all who yearn for acceptance, and ignite our passion for justice and peace.
The light of our chalice flame also represents the warmth of community. Won't you please take a minute now, turn to your neighbor sitting near you. Maybe it's someone who you don't know yet, even better. Turn to them, welcome them into this holy space with a handshake, a hug, or a wave hello.
If there's any hope for love at all, some walls must fall. Join me in that. If there's any hope for love at all, some walls must fall. Some walls are built with pride, some keep the child inside. Some walls are made in fear, that love let go will disappear. If there's any hope for love at all, some walls must fall.
3 little words we can never say enough. 3 words that can lead us towards holy curiosity, away from prideful claims that keep us walled up even to ourselves, and especially to each other. Keep us alone, isolated. But there is another way to tear down those walls, to create a more loving world, to become an empowered activist for truth rather than an object of political power plays. 3 little words hold all we need to tear down walls within families, between opponents, within ourselves. Help me understand.
If there's any hope for love at all, some walls must fall. This next song is from the Broadway musical Hadestown. Yes, someone was very excited. It's good. This is the first musical ever to be both written and directed by a woman and win the Tony for Best Musical. It sounds like it was written about our current climate, but it was a concept album that was written 10 years ago. And this song, Why We Build the Wall, it's from the point of view of Hades, from Hadestown. That's why we're going to make everything red. Go for it, George. Yeah. We get theatrical here. It does talk about military-industrial complex and that idea, but really it's built on pride. We build walls for our own pride. Why do we build the wall? My children, my children, why do we build the wall? Why do we build the wall? We build the wall to keep us free. That's why we build the wall. We build the wall to keep us free. And how does the wall keep us free? My children, how does the wall keep us free? How does the wall keep us free? The wall keeps out the enemy, and we build the wall to keep us free. That's why we build the wall. We build the wall to keep us free. And who do we call the enemy? My children, who do we call the enemy? Who do we call the enemy? The enemy is poverty, and the wall keeps out the enemy, and we build the wall to keep us free. That's why we build the wall. We build the wall to keep us free. Because we have, and they have not. My children, because they want what we have got. Because we have and they have not. Because we want what we have got. The enemy is poverty, and the wall keeps out the enemy, and we build the wall to keep us free. That's why we build the wall. We build the wall to keep us free. What do we have that they should want? My children, what do we have that they should want? What do we have that they should want? We have a wall to work upon. We have work and they have none. And our work is never done. My children, and the war is never won. The enemy is poverty, and the wall keeps out the enemy. And we build the wall to keep us free. That's why we build the wall. We build the wall to keep us free. We build the wall to keep us free.
Ego by Denise Duhamel. I just didn't get it. Even with the teacher holding an orange, the earth, in one hand, and a lemon, the moon, in the other, and her favorite student, the sun, standing behind her with a flashlight. I just couldn't grasp it. This whole citrus universe, these bumpy planets revolving so slowly, no one could even see themselves moving. I used to think if I could only concentrate hard enough, I could be the one person to feel what no one else could, sense a small tug from the ground, a sky shift, the earth changing gears. Even though I was only one mini speck on a speck, even though I was merely a pinprick in one goosebump on the orange, I was sure I was the most specially perceptively sensitive. I was sure then my mother was the only mother to snap, "The world doesn't revolve around you." The earth was fragile and mostly water, just the way the orange was mostly water if you peeled it, just the way I was mostly water if you peeled me. Looking back on that third grade science demonstration, I can understand why some people gave up on fame or religion or cures, especially people who have an understanding of the excruciating crawl of the world, who have a well-developed sense of spatial reasoning and the tininess that it is to be one of us. But not me. Even now, I wouldn't mind being God, the force who spins the planets the way I spin a globe, a basketball, a yo-yo. I wouldn't mind being that teacher who chooses the fruit, or that favorite kid who gives the moon its glow.
How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? how deeply you're connected to my soul. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul.
Let us put hands upon hearts and feel the warm connection. Let love in this moment flow. Say to yourself silently, I will love myself. I will love others. And that love will heal the world. Today at 2:00 p.m. we will gather here in this sanctuary to celebrate the life of Man Reed. A reception will follow the service. We hold Pat Reed and Man's whole family in our hearts today. You are invited to speak the names of people you are holding in your heart this morning, holding them close, people who are in need of loving energy, who may be struggling. Speak their names into this holy space now. As humans have gathered for millennia, so we gather on this day to gently surrender to something beyond ourselves, to humbly acknowledge our mistakes, to ask forgiveness, to seek hope and renewal, to honor the earth that supports and sustains life, to remember that all beings are inextricably and mysteriously connected, and to feel that connection. Now we still our bodies, we still our minds. We take in a big breath and we exhale. We relax into this space that our intentions make sacred. We enter into the wise silence.
could anyone ever tell you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul.
Margaret Mead said, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing which has." We at UUCA have many small groups of thoughtful citizens living out their UU faith in so many ways. Coffee ministry, our religious education teachers, social justice ministries, ushers, greeters, just to name a few. Ask yourself this: how do you want to live out your Unitarian Universalist faith? How can you make a difference? How can you be the you want to be? Perhaps the thought of being on a board member at large or serving on the stewardship or nominating committees has been in the back of your mind, but you were hesitant to come forward. Well, today is your day. The nominating committee is having an informal information session in the social hall after this service for UUCA members to ask questions about the board, the nominating and stewardship positions, what they entail, their time commitments and job descriptions. Don't be shy. We don't bite. We don't put on undue pressure. We are here to serve this beloved community, to answer your questions. And yes, hopefully find that there are some of you out there that will say, I am interested in changing the world, and I will start with my community and living my UU faith. Another way that you can live your UU faith is to give generously for the continuing work of this religious community. The offering will now be given and gratefully received.
Got a call from an old friend, we used to be real close. Said he couldn't go on the American way. Closed the shop, told the house, got a ticket to the West Coast. Now he gives them a stand-up routine in LA. I don't need you to worry for me, 'cause I'm alright. I don't want you to tell me it's time to come home. I don't care what you say anymore, this is my life. Go ahead with your own life, leave me alone. I never said you had to offer me a second chance. I never said I was a victim of circumstance. I still belong. Don't get me wrong. You can speak your mind, but not on my time. They tell you you can't sleep alone in a strange place. Then they tell you you can't sleep with somebody else. But sooner or later you sleep in your own space. Either way, it's okay to wake up with yourself. I don't need you to worry for me, 'cause I'm alright. I don't want you to tell me it's time to come home. I don't care what you say anymore, this is my life. Go ahead with your own life, leave me alone. I never said you had to offer me a second chance. I never said I was a victim of circumstance. I still belong. Don't get me wrong. You can speak your mind, but not on my time. I don't care what you say anymore, this is my life. Go ahead with your own life, leave me alone. Leave me to yourself, it's my life.
It's kind of nice having the music be the dramatic foil to your message for a change. Kind of clarifies things a little bit for me in the message part. What a week we have lived through together. It's been quite a week, and it is definitely a time when I am grateful. I don't know about you, but I am feeling blessed and grateful to be a part of a religious faith, a movement that values the search for truth. Not truth, but the search for truth. A holy curiosity that we must not rest in what we are fed, but we must continue that holy curiosity, that search for truth and meaning. And we don't have to do that alone. We can do that together in religious community. So blessed by this community that continues that search for truth and meaning together in a world that would have it otherwise. Blessings on this gift. May it go far and wide to spread love to a world, a community that desperately needs it in these times. Blessings on this gift.
And now please join me in the dedication of this offering, the words which can be found on our screens in your order of service. To the work of this congregation, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action we call community, we dedicate our lives, and these are our offerings.
We're 3 weeks away not only from the end of the year, but from the end of the decade. And I think we can all agree that this is a very stupid time to be alive. So we decided to have some fun with it.
you've been there before. You are at a holiday dinner with extended family, and maybe it's an older uncle or grandfather is explaining to everyone that the impeachment trial, well, it's just a sham trial. The news is really not to be trusted. The real conspiracy, he explains, is the liberal conspiracy and the way all the major journalists and news networks are part of that plan to disrupt this presidency. Who were you at the table? Were you the wife trying to keep everyone happy? Hush your husband and not talk politics at the family dinner table, please? Were you the daughter rolling her eyes in the silence you've adapted to, since there's really no point in arguing? Are you the son who desperately wants to stay in your dad's good graces? Or perhaps you are the one explaining to everyone else the way things are. Perhaps the topic is entirely different, or the audience is completely different, and you are the one hearing yourself talk, just telling it like it really is. How do we know what we don't know? I have a prayer I offer in my life from time to time, especially these days. Dear God, universe, please keep me surrounded by thought partners and friends who will protect me from my own obsolescence, from my own ignorance. Surround me with people who will call me out when I am wrong. May I be open. May I stay flexible in my perspective. In these times, this is a worthy prayer for our own resilience. And so God brought me a Unitarian Universalist congregation. In 1999, Cornell University psychologist David Dunning and Justin Kruger published a paper based on their studies of cognitive bias, a tendency for people across ages, across cultures, across socioeconomic classes to wrongly overestimate their own knowledge or their ability in a particular area. The researchers attributed this trend to a problem of metacognition, which is the ability to analyze one's own thoughts or performance. Those with limited knowledge in a domain suffer a dual burden. Not only do they reach mistaken conclusions and make regrettable errors, but their incompetence robs them of the ability to realize they are doing it. And the effect is not seen only among incompetent individuals. Most people, and I would say all people, have weak points where the bias can take hold. It applies to people with a seemingly solid knowledge base. This tendency may occur because gaining a small amount of knowledge in an area about something that you were previously ignorant can make someone feel as though they are suddenly experts. Only after continuing to explore a topic do people often realize how extensive it is and how much they still have to master. The problem is, ignorance feels a lot like knowledge. It does feel like we have left the golden age of information and we have entered the trash heap age of information, or the dumpster age of information. In this time of 140 characters and news feeds and ticker tape scrolling at the bottom of a screen, the truth is 80% of news readers never make it past the headline. That means only 2 out of 10 people are going to read the article beyond the headline. Our inflated sense of confidence is literally killing newspapers and threatens the entire future of journalism as we know it. Because we read that headline, so we know everything there is to know on the topic, right? And the problem, ultimately, with that Jimmy Kimmel clip is that while it's funny to laugh at people's overconfidence and their ultimate ignorance, the way they cover that up, the Dunning-Kruger effect implicates us all. Every single one of us can relate to passionately making a claim, all the while resisting deeper awareness, or being told later we were not on the right track at all. And even then, the first response to wash over us is typically disbelief. No, that can't be right. Not to get too meta, but even now, as I share this with you, there is a lot I still don't know about the Dunning-Kruger effect. I mean, I only read 3 articles about the Dunning-Kruger effect this week, but at least I know there is more that I don't know. That's the best I can hope for. You know, I always thought one of the greatest gifts of the Obama presidency was his language around gay marriage. Do you remember that? He said to the American people, "I have evolved on this issue." That a brilliant, Harvard-educated world leader could admit to changing his position because of deeper awareness, new understanding, and new knowledge, that is still an inspiration to me as a leader. And we are a far way off from that moment in the leadership we see now. To have the ego strength and the spiritual fortitude to admit, the President of the United States, to admit that he was wrong and that he is capable of learning. I mean, this humility and this strength and leadership we saw in Obama offers us a way to overcome the Dunning-Kruger effect in our own lives. I will tell you, in my own life experience, while I was raised with a strong, clear sense of anti-racism and human rights, I will tell you I did not always understand queer theory, the gender spectrum. I did not always understand the ways society has constructed gender that does not always reflect people's natural experiences of their own bodies and their gender expression. And I remember many years ago at a Unitarian Universalist conference rolling my eyes when I was asked to write my pronouns on my name tag. Isn't it obvious, I thought? I thought I knew all there was to know about gender. And as it turns out, I had so much to learn. Luckily, for me, I had friends who were willing to share their experiences with me. I had people who freed me from my own ignorance by sharing their stories of their gender journey and how writing my own gender pronouns on my name tag liberated us all from making incorrect assumptions about each other and freed us from even imagining that we should always be able to discern a person's gender identity just by looking at them. That is quite an ignorant mistake, as a matter of fact. With humility and self-awareness and 3 simple words, help me understand. I could take that step towards learning what I didn't know. And I am still no expert on this subject, but the greater wisdom is, of course, admitting how much I still have to learn. And as Unitarian Universalists, as people without a creed or an established version of truth, shouldn't holy curiosity be one of our greatest virtues? I mean, shouldn't it? And yet, as it turns out, we fall prey to the same thing that all other people in other denominations fall prey to, our own pride. Our own pride, sadly, gets in our own way. And so, what can you do to gain a more realistic assessment of your own abilities in a particular area if you are not sure you can trust your own self-assessment? What can you do? Well, 1, you can keep learning and practicing. Instead of assuming you already know all there is to know about a subject, keep digging deeper. Once you gain greater knowledge of a topic, the more likely you are to recognize how much there is still to learn. This can combat the tendency to assume you're an expert even when you're not. And second, this is difficult. Ask other people how you're doing. Can you see yourself doing that? Ask other people how you're doing. Ask others for their constructive criticism. And while it can sometimes be difficult to hear, this feedback can provide valuable insight into how others perceive your abilities. And finally, question what you know. Even as you learn and get feedback, it can be easy to only pay attention to the things that conform to what you already think you know. This is an example of another type of psychological bias known as confirmation bias. In order to minimize this tendency, keep challenging your beliefs and your expectations. Seek out new information that challenges your ideas. Don't fear that new information. Don't fear that challenge. Seek it out even. It takes a strong ego to question what you know and to seek out people and information that challenge your long-held belief system. My grandfather, a great patriarch, never graduated from high school, and you could not tell him anything. He was outspoken with all of his ideas and all of his opinions on all subjects. He regularly made fun of my parents for the money they wasted on higher education for themselves and their children. He won every single argument, either through intimidation or cruel jokes at others' expense. The result of his lifelong commitment to his own cognitive bias was ultimately loneliness and the loss of his family. See, we moved away, and a few years later we moved farther still, and I didn't see him much at all in the last 10 years of his life. In his isolation, his ego was protected, but at what cost? And this is generational, this Dunning-Kruger effect. Even I have to check myself, and I'm sure you will help me check myself. When someone tells me something new, I often counter with, right, I know. Even that's my knee-jerk reaction, even when I have never heard this information before. Institutions and organizations can also suffer from the Dunning-Kruger effect. Politicians, by the way, manipulate this, and they use it to their advantage by keeping their base, their voters, ignorant, yet prideful. They reward their lack of knowledge with divisive statements that can make their constituents feel superior. Liberal organizations, including our own Unitarian Universalism, well, we have been deconstructing our own long-held biases and beliefs, working to understand the ways that as an institution and as a structure, Unitarian Universalism itself has maintained some of the premises of the white supremacist capitalist patriarchy. And Unitarian Universalism is working now to free itself from its own cognitive bias, its own cultural norms, to establish new norms based on new self-awareness and on people's lived experiences. And institutionally, I will tell you, as it is personally, this is a very painful process. This requires deep compassion, humility, and expressions of love and care for one another, even as we call each other to change and evolve. The ego resilience required to address our confirmation bias, well, it's a very tall order, my friends. To practice radical humility requires deep self-love with a dash of humor at oneself. And I try to aspire to that too. First, you have to offer love and care for the child inside yourself who was perhaps demeaned, who was perhaps bullied, who was told in some way you would never measure up, who was told you were too stupid to comprehend something new. You have to care for and tend to that child who was abused or scared or was made to feel unsafe or unprotected. The first step to break down those walls the child inside has constructed for his own safety or her own safety is to really care for her or him. And then it is time, possibly with a therapist, to address those adults who were not quite caring for that child. Parents, teachers, priests, school principals, neighbors who did not protect that child, who left the child in you so exposed that you had to build some walls around yourself. And once those walls were built, you could find ways to make others feel stupid or to feel inferior. Anything that threatened you could just be chalked up to being wrong. And whatever you don't understand is now someone else's problem and not your own. And that's how you came protected from that which you did not know and could not understand. See, this is deep, deep-rooted work ahead of us if we are to take this on. The Chinese philosopher Confucius once said, "To know what you know and what you do not know, that is true knowledge." And there is truth to this. The corollary to the Dunning-Kruger effect is that people who really are experts in their fields tend to be much more humble about what they actually know and are open to correction when they are wrong. I have seen this myself in some of the greatest biblical scholars of our time: deep humility. Maybe the prerequisite to being able to learn is to know how much we don't know and to learn to listen much more than speak. To tear down these walls we have constructed within ourselves that keep us from humility, keep us from being more connected, and from that holy curiosity, well, we must disrupt our own thought patterns. We must love our inner child and love ourselves enough to change our own inner narrative, the one that insists that we already know someone else's experience, and instead allow us the gentle grace to be able to say, "I didn't know that. Help me understand." Now you may be thinking, what is she talking about? I mean, some people think the world is flat right now. Like, what am I going to get, Just try it. Even with people who don't believe climate change is real or whatever, just try it. Help me understand. Help me understand. See what happens if you just try those 3 simple words. What opens up? What opens up in their thinking, not just your own? Help me understand. Holy mystery. May we love ourselves enough to always keep learning and growing. May we love each other enough to hold each other accountable to higher wisdom and deeper understanding. May we protect each other from illusory superiority whenever it reveals itself. May we renew our commitment each day to practice radical humility, holy curiosity, and sacred awe for all we do not yet know. May we speak the mantra to ourselves and to each other. Help me understand. Amen. May it be so.
So about 90 minutes ago, I stood up and said our final hymn is number 34, Though I May Speak with Bravest Fire. It's a setting of an old English melody called Oh Wally Wally. And after the service, someone came up and said, it's an Irish melody. And my first thought was, no, it's not. The Dunning-Kruger effect, exactly in action in that very moment. Instead of, I'll Google that later, right? Which is a much better idea. It is a beautiful melody, one of my favorites, number 34 of the Gray Hymnal. Please rise in body or in spirit. It might be Irish, I'm not sure. Though I may speak with bravest fire and have the gift to all inspire and have the love my words are made as sounding brass and hopeless I may give all I possess, and striving so my love profess, but not begin by love within. The prophet soon grows straight